Good morning, students. I'll be teaching you a subject called Engineering Thermodynamics. It's a very interesting subject, and I tell you, this is the easiest one. Now, thermodynamics is not a new subject for you. In plus 2 physics, you have done thermodynamics. Have you not done? You have done heat, temperature, different laws of thermodynamics, enthalpy, entropy, little bit of internal energies, equilibrium, etc. So we will be rereading all those things again. We will relearn all those things again, but only difference is that we will do it with an engineering approach. Now you were doing the basic thermodynamics. We will now couple the basic thermodynamics with the applied thermodynamics in this subject, and we will know how as an engineer we will approach at studying thermodynamics. Now, as the name implies, thermodynamics is the study of thermal engineering or thermal energy and its effect on physical properties of the substances. And the entire discussion of thermodynamics revolves around two things. These two things are also known to you. You must have heard a system, more precisely a thermodynamic system, and a surrounding. So, in engineering thermodynamics, we will first learn about what is a system and what is its surroundings. Right? Now, system. While solving a thermodynamic problem, we always focus our attention to matter and space. Okay, so a fixed quantity of matter or a fixed region in space on which we focus our attention while solving a thermodynamic problem is called a system, or as I told you more precisely, a thermodynamic system. A fixed quantity of matter or a fixed region in space. Fixed quantity of matter means say 5 kg of oxygen, 10 kg of air, 20 kg of nitrogen, 10 tons of ice, 100 liters of water. So these are all systems. Or I say I take a space, I put a boundary, and I call this is my system. This is my system. And anything external to the system are called its surrounding. So when you have a system, you also have its surroundings. That means anything that is not part of the system are part of surroundings. Anything that are part of the surroundings are not part of the system. And system and surrounding together, they constitute the universe. They constitute the universe. Now, you have to view universe as something beyond which nothing exists. Alright? And within the universe, you define a system. Once you define a system, automatically anything beyond the boundary of a system are its surrounding. Right? And system and surrounding, as I told, are separated by something called a system boundary. The system boundary may be visible, the system boundary may be invisible, the system boundary may be moving or stationary, but they are separated by something called a boundary. Now, across the boundary, there is possibility of mass flow, there is possibility of energy flow. So, a system can interact with its surroundings in two ways, either in terms of mass interaction or in terms of energy interaction. If there is no mass interaction, if there is no mass interaction between the system and surrounding, that means the system mass is fixed and no mass is going out of the system or no mass is entering the system from the surroundings, then that kind of system is called a closed system. Closed system. That means the boundary of the system are closed for any mass flow. But energy flow may take place. energy flow may take place. Now, suppose there is mass flow taking place across the system boundary. That means some mass is going out of the system to the surrounding, or some mass is entering to the system from the surroundings. Then in that case, the system boundary is allowing the mass flow, and such a system is called an open system. So in open system, mass flow occurs. In closed system, there is no mass flow. And in both the cases, energy interactions may take place. You can also have a third kind of system where there is no mass flow, there is no energy flow as well. So neither mass can cross the boundary nor any form of energy can cross the boundary. In that case, the system is entirely isolated from the surroundings. It is not interacting with the surrounding at all. And such a system is called an isolated system. Isolated system. So what is a closed system? No mass flow. What is an open system? Mass flow has to be there. What is an isolated system? No mass flow, no energy flow, no interaction with the surrounding. Okay. So three kinds of system we have. Now when you have a system or a fixed quantity of matter, you need to describe it. How do you describe? How do you describe a person? The person is tall or short, is fair or dark, person is having beard or not having beard, the person is using spec or not using spec, like that. So there are certain characteristics, the help of which you take to describe the condition of or describe a particular person. Similarly, to describe the condition of a system, you take the help of certain characteristics. So what are the characteristics? How do you describe the system? 5 kg of oxygen. So you will say it's 5 kg of oxygen is occupying a volume of this much. It is exerting a pressure of this much on the walls of its container. It is at a temperature of this many degrees centigrade, and so on. So you see that to describe the system, you take the help of certain characteristics, and those characteristics or parameters, the help of which you take to describe a system, are called the system properties or thermodynamic properties. So what are thermodynamic properties? Thermodynamic properties. So what are the thermodynamic properties? Thermodynamic properties are the parameters or characteristics by the help of which the condition of a system can be described. And in thermodynamics, we take that there are 8 thermodynamic properties. 8. What are they? So how many thermodynamic properties are there? There are 8 thermodynamic properties. So what are they? One is pressure, by the help of which we describe the condition of a system. Volume, temperature. These are few characteristics that you are already acquainted with. Pressure, volume, temperature. You know what a pressure is, volume, temperature. Then there is something called an internal energy. Internal energy. Then there is another property called enthalpy. We will gradually know what these properties are. Then there is a property called entropy. So these are the 6 properties that you have already heard of. Okay. In your earlier classes, lower classes, you must have done pressure, volume, temperature, the relationship between them, like Charles' law, Boyle's law, etc. Internal energy, enthalpy, and you must have heard about entropy also. If you have not understood fully, at least you must have heard this word entropy. But these are the 6 properties, and then the 7th one is Gibbs function, and the 8th one is Helmholtz function. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 thermodynamic properties. In this class we will mostly be dealing with 6 of them. I mean in this subject mostly, and in Gibbs function and Helmholtz function we will be doing in higher classes. So pressure, volume, temperature, internal energy, enthalpy, entropy, Gibbs function and Helmholtz function. These are the 8 thermodynamic properties. So what are thermodynamic properties? Thermodynamic properties are the parameters or characteristics by the help of which we describe the condition of any thermodynamic system. They are called thermodynamic properties or simply properties. There are other properties as well, like conductivity, specific heat, density, etc. They are physical properties. They are not thermodynamic properties. There are 8 thermodynamic properties. You must understand that. You must remember that there are 8 thermodynamic properties. What are they? Pressure, volume, temperature, internal energy, enthalpy, entropy, Gibbs function, and the last one is Helmholtz function. Alright. Now, suppose at a particular instant of time, at any instant, say a system is existing, say this is a system, and this system has a pressure P1, a volume V1, temperature T1, internal energy U1, enthalpy H1, entropy S1, Gibbs function G1, and Helmholtz function F1. And let us say we know all the values. We know what P1 is, or what is T1, what is the value of V1. At any point of time, if the values of all the properties are fixed, not changing, then, and they are known, then we say that the system is existing in a definite thermodynamic state. What is a state? A thermodynamic state is a situation where the values of all the properties of a system are fixed. They are not changing. Okay. Then we say the system is existing in state point 1 or thermodynamic state 1. At any point of time, at any state, the system has a pressure P1, the value of which is known and fixed. Temperature is T1, internal energy is U1, entropy is S1, and so on. So we say this is a thermodynamic state. So after thermodynamic properties, we are defining what is a thermodynamic state, or simply a state. Normally in physics, state means there are 3 states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. But here in thermodynamics, we will be using state word for this. For the solid, liquid, and vapor, etc., we will be using the word phase. Solid phase, liquid phase, vapor phase, like that. And state means thermodynamic state, means at a particular instant all the properties are fixed. Now if this system, which is nothing but a fixed quantity of matter, is subjected to some kind of operation, suppose you heat the system, or cool the system, or compress the system, or allow it to expand, something you do, so that the value of at least one of these 8 properties will change. Got me? At least one property value will change, if not all. 2 may change, 3 may change, but at least one property must be changing. If you carry out some operation on this system so that a value of any of these properties, or at least one of these properties, changes, then we say the system has undergone a change of state. So first we learn what is state, and then what is a change of state. Change of state. Change of state means now the pressure is P1, volume is V1, temperature T1, F1, E1, but enthalpy is H2 and entropy is S2. That means 2 properties H2 and S2 have changed. That means the system has now shifted from state 1 to another state 2, where the properties are all not same with the properties at point 1. So there is some change in properties. Then we say that the system has undergone a change of state from 1 to 2. Similarly, again one property change, the system has migrated to another point 3. Then again from 3 to 4, the system has migrated and undergone a change of state. Then what we say, this line if you see, this is the locus of the different state points as and when the system is changing its state. So it is a succession of state changes, a series of state changes, or a continuation of state changes you can say. So such a series of state changes is called a thermodynamic path. What it is called? This is called a thermodynamic path. That means from state point 1 to another state point 2, if the system is migrating, then in between it will pass through a number of states. If this is the final state, if this is the initial state, then from 1 to 2 there are innumerable number of state points in between through which the system has to migrate or travel. Okay, so there is a state change from this to this, this to this, this to this, this to this, this to this. So the succession of state changes ultimately takes it to point 2. Now this 1 to 2 is called a path. Now you tell me, 1 to 2 is the path, 1 is the initial state, 2 is the final state, and tell me how many such 1 to 2 is the path. How many such paths are possible between 1 and 2? Now your answer will be infinite, because from 1 to 2 it can go this way, it can go this way, it can go this way, it can take a route like this, it can take a route like this. So there are infinite possibilities for the system to migrate from 1 to 2. And each one of these infinite routes will be called a thermodynamic path. So 1 is a state, 2 is another state, 1 to 2 is a succession of state changes or a path, and there are infinite number of paths between 1 and 2. It's possible that we can have infinite number of paths between 1 and 2. Question is, now I am asking you a different question. I am telling that the system has to go from 1 to 2, but while migrating from 1 to 2, there is a condition it is to satisfy. What is the condition? Condition is that the pressure must remain constant. Between 1 to 2, at every point on the path, pressure must be constant. This is a condition. So when I am putting a condition, then what is the number of possible paths? Will it be infinity? No. Once you put a condition, the number of paths between 1 and 2 with that particular condition being satisfied will reduce to just 1. So there will be only one path between 1 and 2 where this particular condition, that pressure remains constant throughout, will be satisfied. And in such a case, when the path becomes a unique path with a well-defined condition, with the imposition of a condition which is to be satisfied all along the path, then such a path is called a process, and precisely it is called a thermodynamic process. Okay, it is called a process. I think now you will understand. Now it is a path, there is a path where the condition is pressure remains constant. So what kind of path it is? What kind of process it is? It is a constant pressure process, or it is called in thermodynamic vocabulary, such a path or such a process is called an isobaric process. Isobaric process. What is the condition? Pressure remains constant. Isobaric process. Similarly, I will say from 1 to 2, it has to take up a path in such a manner that temperature must remain constant. Temperature should remain constant. Now, how many such paths are possible? Again 1. And that one and unique path will be called a process. Which process? It has a name. Because the condition is temperature remains constant, so the name of the process is isothermal process. These are the names you must have heard. Adiabatic process, isothermal process, isobaric process. Similarly, I put another condition. Volume is constant. Volume is constant and the process is called isochoric process. isochoric process. Now I say, think of a process where there is no heat transfer taking place between the system and the surrounding. There is neither heat transfer from the system to the surrounding nor from the surrounding to the system. Then in that case, what is the name of the process? The name of the process will become adiabatic process. Adiabatic process. So these are just names, and every name has a meaning. Every name has a meaning, and meaning means a condition. That condition has to be satisfied for all points along the path. So what is process? Process is nothing but a path. You know what is a path? Now process is a path, a special path you can say, a well-defined path, or a path with a particular condition which needs to be satisfied all along the path. And accordingly we have different names. So you know about state. Before that you knew what is a thermodynamic property. And how many thermodynamic properties are there? There are 8 thermodynamic properties. I repeat: pressure, volume, temperature, internal energy, enthalpy, entropy, Gibbs function, and Helmholtz function. Clear? Now you also know about state, then change of state, then path, and then process. Now there is a point, state point 1, there is a state point 2. It is a state, it is another state. And there is a process like this. A process is always designated by 2 points, initial and final states, and an arrow mark along the path showing the direction of occurrence of the process. The arrow mark here indicates that the process has been initiated from point 1 and has terminated at point 2. This is the direction of occurrence. If I simply draw a path between 1 and 2 without an arrow mark, that doesn't indicate either whether 1 is the initial point or 2 is the initial point. Okay. Now the arrow mark is significant. If you are to represent a process, it is to be represented this way. If you are not putting an arrow mark, if you are not putting some names on the cardinal points, then thermodynamically that is wrong. Now take another point, another process, 2 to 3, where 3 is the final point and 2 is the initial state point. So how many processes can you see here? 2 processes. 1 to 2 is one process, where 1 is the initial point and 2 is the final state. 2 to 3 is another process in which 2 is the initial state and 3 is the final state point. Now what is this 1, 2, 3 called? The 1, 2, 3 is nothing but a combination of processes. So it is a combination of processes in which, for this combination, 1 is the initial state and 3 is the final state. And 1 and 3 are 2 different state points. Now, if I take another process, a third process, 3 to 1, then this will again be called a combination of processes. The earlier one was a combination of 2 processes, this is a combination of 3 processes. So, if we take a combination of processes like this, in which the initial state point is 1 and the final state point is also 1, that means the initial state is identical with the final state, then we say that this combination of processes will be called a cycle, a thermodynamic cycle. So what is a thermodynamic cycle? Thermodynamic cycle is a combination of processes in which the initial state point is identical with the final state point. That means the system travels from state 1. State 1 means not the point on the blackboard. State 1 means it is a condition with a particular pressure value, volume value, temperature value, internal energy value, etc. etc. Then it travels from point 1 to 2, then from 2 to 3, and from 3 to 1 it comes back to the initial state. Then the whole combination is called a thermodynamic cycle. So today we learnt about system, different types of system, then the characteristics that help in describing a system, that are called thermodynamic properties. We listed out the properties, and then we learnt about what a state point is, what is change of state, and then what is a path, what is a well-defined path or a process, and then what is a thermodynamic cycle. Okay. Now, one very important thing we will learn now, that is called equilibrium or thermodynamic equilibrium. Now, what is equilibrium? In mechanics, you must have done the body is in equilibrium. Means what? The net force acting on the body is zero. In any direction, the net force acting on the body is zero. We say it is in equilibrium. I am in equilibrium with the surroundings. I am in equilibrium with the system. Means it indicates the stability of the system. Now, in thermodynamics, we normally discuss about three kinds of equilibrium. Three kinds of equilibrium. The first equilibrium is that, say, if A is a system, and B is another system. When I say system in this class, as long as I am telling system, I mean thermodynamic system. If there are two systems A and B, and there is no net force acting between each other, A is not giving any force, unbalanced force on B, B is not giving any unbalanced force on A, mechanical force, then we say they are in mechanical equilibrium. They are in mechanical equilibrium with each other. That is important. You cannot say I am in equilibrium. I have to say it is a relative word. I am in equilibrium with the environment. I am in equilibrium with the existing system. So system A is in equilibrium with what? With system B or with its surrounding. So if there is no unbalanced external force between A and B, and A and B are two systems, then we say A and B are in equilibrium with each other. Or if A is a system and rest of the remaining part of the universe is its surroundings, and there is no unbalanced external force acting between A and rest of the universe, then we say the system A is in mechanical equilibrium with its surroundings. But we have to write with, in equilibrium with. Okay, that is important. Now, this is mechanical equilibrium. What is the condition? No unbalanced force. Okay, that means it is a state of mechanical equilibrium. Similarly, if you have a thermodynamic system A and thermodynamic system B, they are not chemically interacting with each other. There is no chemical reaction taking place between A and B, nor among the constituents of the respective systems. Then we say that system A and system B are in chemical equilibrium with each other. Are in chemical equilibrium with each other. Okay, condition is that no chemical reaction. No chemical reaction taking place between A and B. Then we say that they are in chemical equilibrium with each other, again with each other. Or there is simply a system A and the A is not chemically reacting with the surrounding, or the constituents within the A are not interacting among themselves, reacting among themselves. In that case we say system A is in chemical equilibrium with its surroundings. So as I told, I repeat that when you write the word equilibrium, you have to mention it is in equilibrium with reference to what or with what. Okay. There is another kind of equilibrium. If there is system A and there is a system B, thermodynamic system again, and there is no heat transfer taking place between them. That means neither A is transferring heat to B, nor heat is going from B to A. Then in that case, we say that system A and system B are in thermal equilibrium. Thermal equilibrium with each other. What is the condition? No heat interaction. There is no interaction in terms of heat between, can you see, between system A and system B. Or if you are to tell in other words, suppose there is one single system A, and there is no heat transfer taking place between the system and its surrounding. That means no heat is coming from the surrounding to the system, or no heat is going from the system A to its surroundings. Then in that case we say the system A is in thermal equilibrium with its surroundings. Okay, so whenever we say equilibrium, we have to say equilibrium with what? Now, so this is a case where we have defined what is mechanical equilibrium, what is thermal equilibrium, and what is chemical equilibrium. Suppose these two systems A and B, between these two all the three equilibrium conditions are satisfied. All the three equilibrium conditions, mechanical, chemical and thermal. That means there is no unbalanced external force, there is no chemical reaction between them, and there is no heat interaction between them. Mechanical equilibrium is satisfied, chemical equilibrium is satisfied, thermal equilibrium is also satisfied. Then we say that A and B are in thermodynamic equilibrium. Thermodynamic equilibrium with each other. So A and B are in thermodynamic equilibrium. See, mark this difference. This thermodynamic, this thermal. Thermal equilibrium is only one part of thermodynamic equilibrium. Thermodynamic equilibrium is a broader term where all the three equilibrium conditions are to be satisfied. But thermal equilibrium is just one, no heat interaction, thermal equilibrium. But in thermodynamic equilibrium, there has to be no mechanical interaction, no chemical interaction, and no thermal interactions. So this is called thermodynamic equilibrium. After this, we will start with the basic law of thermodynamics, that is the very first law, but its name is not first law. Okay, it is the very first law of thermodynamics, but its name is not first law. It is called the 0th law of thermodynamics. The 0th law. Actually, what happened? The first law was stated, then the second law was stated. After the first law was stated by scientists, this law came up. Prior to that, people have different opinion about what temperature is and what heat is. So after first law, this law came. But this happens to be more basic in nature than the content of first law. So this was given the name of 0th law. So 0th law of thermodynamics. 0th law of thermodynamics. In this course, we will know about 4 laws of thermodynamics. One is the 0th law, first law, second law, and very little we will know about the third law of thermodynamics. Okay, first law and second law we will be doing in detail, and today we will do what is 0th law of thermodynamics. 0th law of thermodynamics speaks about thermal equilibrium. Okay, now it says that today we will make the statement, and from the next class we will try to understand actually what it is in regard to the definition of temperature and heat. 0th law of thermodynamics statement is very simple, but concept-wise it is not that simple as it appears to be, and it appears to be very obvious, but it is not so obvious. If system A is in thermal equilibrium with system B, which is in thermal equilibrium with another system C, then all the three systems A, B, C are in thermal equilibrium with each other. This is how the statement reads like. If there is a system A, if there is another system B, and both are in thermal equilibrium with each other, and there is a third thermodynamic system C which is in thermal equilibrium with system B, then A and C also will be in thermal equilibrium with each other, so that all the three systems will be in thermal equilibrium with one another. Okay. Matlab, if A and B are connected, B and C are connected, the A and C are also connected. It appears very obvious, but that is not always true. That is not always true. Okay, but this is the statement. So in the next class, we will try to understand the statement in the light of a correct definition of temperature and heat. Okay, it is not that you don't know what the definition of temperature. You know it very well. So in the next class, we will discuss how to define temperature correctly, how to define heat correctly, and we'll try to understand, in the light of these two definitions, we'll try to understand what is zeroth law of thermodynamics before we go to the next law, that is the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, thank you. This much for today. So today we learnt about very basic things like system, different types of systems, then system properties, change of state points, process, path, cycle, and three different equilibrium conditions. So that's all for today. Thank you.